This program is brought to you by realestate.com.au, Australia's #1 address in property. With more properties for sale than anywhere else, we make it easier.
Welcome back. Let's take a look at the auctions for this week. There are about 1,900 scheduled across the country. That's up 116% on the same week last year. But remember, last year was the Easter weekend, which is very quiet for auctions, hence the big increases in numbers. New South Wales will host 741 auctions with 590 in Sydney. Victoria has 732 scheduled with 688 in Melbourne. Queensland will host 220 auctions, 85 in Brisbane. South Australia has 125 auctions scheduled, with most of them in Adelaide, and the ACT has 76 auctions scheduled this week. Let's take a look at some of the popular properties going to auction this week. And first up, we have 24 Dowling Road, Oakley South in southeast Melbourne. This four-bedder is set on about 900 square metres. Next up, it's 36 Emblem Way, Craigieburn, about 30 kilometres north of the Melbourne CBD. This home's roof's been burnt out by fire, so it's selling at a bargain price of about $275,000. It's being sold as is, with no warranties or guarantees. Then we head over to the southern Adelaide suburb of Clapham to number 8 Columbia Avenue. This three-bedder has a price guide of about $780,000. Then it's back to Melbourne to 6 Cherry Street, Glen Waverley in the western suburbs. Price guide's about $1.8 million. And rounding out the list is another Melbourne property, 58 Holden Street, Fitzroy North, about 5 k's north of the CBD. This terrace house has a price guide of about $1.75 million. And the most viewed property on the REA Group website this week is a giant family estate set on about 12 acres of land on the outskirts of Melbourne. The address is 305 Old Emerald Road, Monbulk. This home has 6 bedrooms, 3 bathrooms and 6 car spaces. It has Tuscan influences throughout with elevated ceilings, timber polished floors and double glazed windows. There's a massive wraparound balcony on the second floor offering views over the entire estate. Outside, there's plenty of entertaining areas, pizza oven, a fire pit station and a swimming pool. The home's close to the Dandenong Ranges and the Yarra Valley. Price guide, it's about $2.5 million. And for more on the auction market, I caught up with Cameron Kusher, the Director of Economic Research at REA Group. Started by asking him about the amount of auctions scheduled for this weekend.
Yeah, we're definitely seeing more auctions nationally this week, although I'd say that auction volumes are still pretty low. Now, they are significantly higher than they were 12 months ago, but we are still seeing on a historic basis a low number of auctions, and that's really reflective of the fact that there isn't a lot of stock available for sale at the moment, and as a result of that, we're not seeing a lot of properties really go to auction.
Yeah, how much time are properties on average spending on the market right now before they get sold?
So we're seeing the days on site spikes early in the year, usually through January and February, and then it comes back down. But days on site is a little bit longer than it was a year ago. It's about 35 days at the moment, but it has come down from recent highs of around 45 to 50 days. So as we're starting to see property prices increase, as we're seeing more buyers out there in the market, and as we're continuing to see a very low volume of stock available for sale, properties are being snapped up a little bit quicker.
Yeah, how much traffic are you getting on the REA Group website right now? Is there a lot of interest because there is such a small amount of stock out there?
We're definitely seeing a lot of interest. So overall search volumes are still really strong. But if we look at other metrics like inquiry per listing, that's quite strong, although we are seeing a bit of a divergence. We're seeing strength in the capital cities, weaker conditions in regional markets, but overall, there is still a lot of activity out there, still a lot of people watching the housing market closely. If we look at sales volumes, they are down a long way from where they've been over the last 2 years. And that really talks to the fact that the last 2 years, early last year and the previous year, were very strong periods for sales activity. But if we compare sales activity currently to what we were seeing back in 2019 and 2020, it's significantly higher. So even though sales activity has slowed, it's still stronger than it has been before the last 2 years. And I think that talks to the fact that there are still a lot of people out there trying to buy properties at the moment. The challenge obviously being that there's not a lot for sale.
Property prices have started to creep up again. Does that mean sellers are feeling a little bit more confident now?
Well, we did in March see a jump in the number of new listings coming to the market, which this time of year we do see a bit of a pickup as we head into the autumn selling season. It was actually the highest number of new listings we'd seen since May of last year, which tells you how dire spring was last year and how low new listing volumes have been, although it was still marginally lower than it was 12 months ago. So we are starting to see a little bit more confidence for people to bring properties to the market. And given that we saw the Reserve Bank pause interest rate hikes earlier this month, I wouldn't be surprised if we start to see a little bit more confidence from sellers. Keeping in mind, though, that March is usually the month where the number of new listings spikes and then it slows through there until spring. So we might see a lower number of new listings in April, but relative to previous years and relative to late last year, the number might be a little bit higher. So I do think there is some more vendor confidence coming through as prices start to rise and as interest rates at the very least are being signalled that they're close to their peak.
Yeah, do you think we are at the end of the falls in property prices across the market? Is that now behind us? Is it now just up from here?
I think for the short term, we're probably at the end of those falls. I wouldn't be surprised if we continue to see some price increases. But I think thereafter, what happens in the housing market's really going to be driven by supply and the fallout from all of these people resetting to higher interest rates. The Reserve Bank last week said, 16% of people can't refinance their mortgage. There are a number of recent borrowers who are in negative equity. And if we do get more stock onto the market, then potentially buyers will have more opportunity to negotiate prices lower, and that could start to push prices lower again. But that's probably a prospect for later in this year. We know that listing volumes are still very low, but if they were to change significantly, then we might see some more falls re-emerge.
Yeah, do you think there could be a rise in mortgage foreclosures over the next 12 months just due to those higher rates that people are now being negotiated onto?
I mean, if we look at mortgage arrears rates, they're pretty much the lowest they've ever been. And that's really been driven by the fact that interest rates have been at record lows. I think it's reasonable to expect that we're going to see higher interest rates translate into an uptick in mortgage arrears and more people having to sell their properties. But I don't think we're going to see a breakout in mortgage arrears, but it's reasonable to expect that it's going to creep a little bit higher from where it is at the moment.
Oh, Cameron Kusher, Director of Economic Research at REA Group. Thanks for your time today.
Thanks for having me.